Nice to meet you. Thank you very much for coming.
It's been a long time. You've been a customer for a long time, and as you know, I called you to say we're coming to New York and we wanted to talk to you, see your work, see if you have any issues with framing, and also to find out a little bit more about you.
I've never gone to art school. I did not pursue art in school. Rather, I was an economics major and then went to law school and practiced law, and I now work in finance by day, but I've always been a painter. It's a painting of railings on Bethune Street, and there is perspective. It's two railings juxtaposed, and they do have a mathematical relationship to each other. Mm-hmm. But with this type of painting that zeroes in on its subject, the vanishing points are way outside the picture frame. Right. Unlike a lot of traditional landscapes where the vanishing points are within the frame. Mm-hmm. So what I do is, to make sure that the perspective is correct, I print out the image of my own painting. And in this case, the vanishing point was so far away, I had to extend it quite a bit in order to understand the relationship of the different scrolls.
Excellent.
I started correcting perspective and discovered that sometimes that was what was that final shift in a painting that made it work. Somehow, even though we don't think we know perspective, we actually do. Mm-hmm. And we sense when something's right and when something's wrong, but we don't know what we're sensing.
Right.
And so it leaves a little bit of discomfort with the viewer when it's not correct. They don't know why they're not comfortable. So that was the technique, and thank goodness for digital photography, because you really couldn't do this with traditional photography in a cost-effective manner.
And that's that economics background you have too. So
yes, there are quite a few of your frames in this room.
It's wonderful.
This is a railing down the street, West 11th, painted as you see it in the late afternoon when the sun is setting behind you. So even though the iron is black, it doesn't read that way. You have all of the colors of the sunset reflecting against the shiny paint back into your eyes. And I just was so enthralled with that effect. I took photographs, but again, I had to paint from memory because the colors were just so unusual and not something that a camera can really pick up.
Yeah, it's very interesting looking at this after you discuss the perspective and kind of how it's very nice. And the light, in between the railings.
Yeah, the shadows.
Yes.
Cast.
Right. Very nice.
So even in what at first seems like a pattern, there's depth, perspective, spatial relationships. But this series, the paintings in the series are meant to read as abstract paintings. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to know what the painting is in order to enjoy it. But they do happen also to be very specific, and they have a purpose, and the purpose is to capture the beauty of these railings as they slowly disappear. And I love the patina of the originals, and unfortunately there are only three things that can happen over time as these railings fall apart and rust. Either they're restored, in which case they lose all their patina, they decay, in which case they just eventually will disappear, or they're destroyed and replaced by owners who don't respect them. And I'm very active in the historic preservation, and I'm a member of the Landmarks Committee of the local community board. But it's a very frustrating process, and a lot of bad things happen. And so at a certain point, I thought that perhaps art really was the better vehicle for preservation, because I'm really trying to capture a moment in time, and painting allows you to do that.
Isn't that interesting? That's a good reminder. Now this is where?
That is on King Street, down in the Charlton Van Dam district, which is about 15 blocks in that direction. And it's a wonderful set of stoops, and from the late 1830s.
Boy, that just really captures.
Your frames, and
Yes.
So I basically at this point I'm using this exact frame for everything, and it creates a unity synthesis. It's a style of frame that I like because it works for those collectors who have a contemporary manner of decorating, but as you will see downstairs, it works with a very traditional setting as well. Now I'm doing something a little bit different. Last October, I spent 3 weeks at the Weir farm, which is the country home of J. Alden Weir, an American impressionist, which is now run by the National Park Service. And it's a wonderful farm of various buildings from different periods where he stayed when he wasn't living in the village. And he was friends with Child Hassan, John Singer Sargent, Bachman, and they all went up to the farm to paint.
Yeah.
So I won a grant to be artist in residence there. And what you see are paintings in process from that trip. So these paintings began at the farm, and now I'm finishing them. You can see I work from photographs. I believe many painters always have, at least as long as photography's been around. Photography is a form of a sketch. Ultimately, what I'm painting is my memory.
Right.
And so here is an example of the way that I work. Here's actually the photograph that I'm working from, and I took many, many pictures and finally decided on the one that had the composition that I liked the most. Then I started it. This is the first stage of the painting. And in developing a painting, I'd like to take it to a more finished extent, but I did not want to lose some of the dynamics in it, which can happen as you develop a painting. So sometimes, as you can see here, I work from a photograph of an early stage of the painting, so that the painting doesn't shift, so it doesn't veer.
Right.
So I can keep focused, keep what's good, and sometimes a painting you lose something and you can go back to the original version, it really it frees you as an artist to work this way, because then you don't have the fear of losing something good, because you can
Right.
always go back to it.